Hey all, how's everybody doing? Thanks so much for being here. It's good to be back. I took a vacation, which has been the first time in a long time to actually go on a vacation that was not connected to a tour, or staying, like doing some work and staying an extra few days. So yeah, 2 weeks was great. 2 weeks in Italy. So that was awesome. So good to be back home. Now it's winter suddenly in New York, which kind of stinks. But what are you going to do? It is November, right? So there's not much I can do. Not much I can do about it. I'm trying. I'm trying to get control over the weather and time and space. It's working on that. All right. So thanks for everybody being here as always. Some cool stuff to talk about right away. Is remember I did that blues boot camp. Now I have released my blues boot camp as a course. It's 6 week long, and I had initially done it as a 6 week long group, and we did it together, releasing the courses once a week. Now it's available as a full course, and it's 75% off using the link below. And super psyched to have this out. It's 6 weeks long, but it's more like 6 months long or a year long. The amount of stuff is in there. I'll never make a course this big again. It's insane. It's so long and full of information I probably won't do that again. So I hope you guys pick it up if you haven't already done the boot camp. I think it's really a ton of fun. And I've broken everything up into 3 sections, and I think it's a great way to learn, and hundreds of people have gone through the course and blah, 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 is learning 3 sections. Everything is broken down into vocabulary, learning how to phrase by copying some of the licks of the masters and learning some solos, learning how to make those your own and apply them to your own playing. Second is repertoire. We're going to learn a bunch of blues tunes from top to bottom because it's super important that you have your repertoire together. It's really, actually, I would say one of the most important things you can do. So you got to go on a gig and people will call a tune and you don't know it. You're the guy who's going to stand there looking around and, staring at their feet or something. So learning blues tunes also helps you build up your repertoire, of course, your time, your sense of feel, and your confidence as a guitar player. And then finally, the third section is fingerboard knowledge and applied theory, where we just start to run through our pentatonic scales, work on technique like bends and vibrato, triads, chord voicings, all these sorts of things. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today is a lot of stuff that's covered in the boot camp as well. So you can pick that up for 75% off. And that's the link below that BV has thrown in there. So definitely go check that out. It just went live today. So I haven't even sent out any mailers. This is the Inside Edition launch. Okay. Oh yeah, of course, everything comes with tab and notation and all that kind of stuff, backing tracks, etc. All right, so today, this is actually one of the lessons that's in the boot camp, and I go much deeper into it there. Something that, when you first learn to play rhythm guitar or accompany other guitar players on the blues, we see chords as very blocky, right? So let's just take 3 chords. Play A7, and go to D7, and then we have E7. So sometimes you're playing blues behind someone, you're thinking, how do I make this sound good? My 5 chord? They can be very, very blocky and not elegant. Sometimes they sound correct depending stylistically what you're going for. But a lot of times they're just not really elegant sounding. Sounds like you're plodding through snow with these big snowshoes on or something like that. So the first thing you want to think about, or I think that made a big difference in my playing, and when I first started playing with Robin, I realized how little I had scratched the surface of some of these ideas. So the concept is that of voice leading and common tones. So a simple idea of what common tone is a note that would be a same note between 2 or 3 chords. So you're going to hold one note the same. So this really starts to help glue these things together. The other thing is called a guide tone. Now a guide tone technically could be the 3rd and the flat 7th of the chord, but we're going to look at it as any notes in the chord that we can either move by a half step or a whole step in either direction. So by doing this, by thinking about common tones and guide tones, we start to think about the inner workings of a chord as opposed to just playing fingerings that can sound a bit not elegant. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. I'm going to start with something really, really simple. So we play this A7 here, right? So if I have my A on top. So if I go to my D7, So you have this note that's on the top. It's like a nice melody note. Now if I go to my 5 chord, which would be D7, or say E7, I'd have to play that B. That still sounds pretty good to me because I'm hearing this A on top. So I think about what could I maybe do that would maybe make that a little more interesting. Well, E7 is spelled E, G sharp, and B, and D. So I could think about this voicing, but I have a G sharp right here. I can think about my E7 voicing like this, like a E7 this way, but I can grab that G sharp on top. So here's my E7 that way. So that right there, see that, guys? Right, so there's like my E major chord is going to make it E7. So I have a G sharp. So instead of maybe doing this very obvious, I can think about it. There's my A of my A and my A chord on top to my D7, which is spelled D, F sharp, A, and C. Now watch. So my top note, my melody note, or this common tone between the two. Now my 5 chord. So I have this thing going on the top of going, as opposed to, and either of those work nicely, but I'm starting to think about what chord voicing it is that I want to play. So when I'm playing rhythm guitar, not solo, when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I think about this when I'm soloing too, but when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I start to think about things like maybe I wouldn't do this, but here's what I'm hearing in my head, right? All right, so I'm thinking that is my top melody note. I could have gone up to the B as well, as I said, But I'm starting to think about, I'm making a choice as to what chord voicing I'm going to use and what I want maybe my top note to be. All right, let's dig a little deeper. That kind of makes sense. So that's the idea. If I can keep a note the same, I'm going to keep it the same. When I change chords, I'm maybe going to move to the next closest chord tone that's either half step above or half step below, or whole step above or whole step below. You have to start looking for them. All right, so if I have A7, all right, let's take this. My E is my melody note. And I want to keep the E on everything. This is where it gets really fun. So I go to D7. Yeah, but that's an F sharp. Well, if I keep this E the same, I can do a D9. So you've probably played this a million times. So I have A7 to D9, because that E is the 9. And I go to my 5 chord, I can go to E7 this way. I'm going to choose this voicing for E7 because there's my E. So I'm going to show you those sounds in kind of a context. 2, 3, 4. Right, so now I'm consciously thinking of my melody note or my highest note as being a chord tone on the one, but I'm going to keep that note consistent through all of them. And what that ends up giving me is a D9 chord on the second chord, right? And this is really important to start to see because you can come up with some really, really cool ideas based upon this. So here, common tone of the E. Now I could have done an A13 chord. right? So I'm seeing this is my melody note. So I'm no longer just thinking chord, 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 right? These big block chords like that, right? I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about, well, what makes the chord cool? How can I make it much more interesting? Now, I got to say, I'm looking at my keyboard, which is off screen. For piano players, this is so obvious. You're playing the chord. I'm like, oh, that note's the same between the two of them. But sometimes for us guitar players, we learn a fingering, and very often we don't look a little deeper and realize that, oh, you know, has some of the same notes going on there, right? So it's the idea of thinking a little deeper with stuff that you already know. So any questions, let me know, please. BB's putting there, put the question mark first, and I want to answer questions on this and hopefully help people with some thoughts on this. So here's my A7 with the E on there, D9, A7, then D, E7, D9, A7 with the E there. Okay, so now let's think of another one. So A7 is spelled A, C sharp, E, and G, right? So there's A7. Here's my A7, right? So I'm going to play my G. Now what's D7? D, F sharp, A, and C. So check out what we have here. So going from A7 to D7. So I can get this really nice top note once again. So my A7 chord. It wouldn't be this literal though. So I get this great on the top. That gives me something else to think about, so I'm not just playing a shape anymore, right? Everybody following along with what's going on and how these are just shapes that you probably already know already. So that's what makes it so much fun. It's like, oh, I know those chords. I just never thought about it necessarily sitting that, like I never thought about it as what's going on the inner working of the chord. Let's dig in a little, let's try another one. All right, so I have A7 to A7 to D7, A7, see what happened there? So I'm going to play A7, then I'm going to maybe play an A7 again to get that melody. Now I'm going to go to my 4 chord, which is D7, and then the A7. How about my E7, D7. So let's hear how that's going to sound. 2, 3, 4. Again, a little different now. Right? So there I kind of messed around with some of those things that I did a little earlier. So this, my D7, and then for the A I went down, so I kind of thought about this melody line that exists inside the chord. So when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I can start to play with some of those ideas. So when people say, you know, I get bored playing rhythm guitar, what that tells me is then you're not thinking enough or you haven't experimented enough. You should never get bored. I don't get bored playing rhythm guitar. When I was younger, I did. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to solo. I'm playing a blues. And then you start realizing like, whoa, there's all these levels to really good rhythm guitar playing. and this isn't just for blues, but it works really nicely with the blues, of course. I just started realizing I was missing all this stuff, and I was already playing these stupid chord voicings, right? But I had not thought about it, and I was just playing them as block shapes that I had memorized, and I didn't think about digging into them in any deeper level and seeing how they can relate to each other and how I can expand this out into making some more music. So oftentimes I will think about how can I create a line? All right, so I'm going to just keep on trying to go down. All right, so check this out. Then my D7 or D9. See what happened there? And let's try to do that in melody in a blues. 2, 3, 4. Now more music. So you see what's kind of going on? You already hear those changes by just messing around with those notes because you're always playing a chord tone or an extension of the chord that you're on. So like a D9 or something like that. And your ears will sometimes throw in that chromatic note for a turnaround. So oftentimes you want to use your ears. But what I just did at that end there is I played once again that A major A7. So this A7. Here's my D7. To that D9. And then to my A7. D9 to D7 to A7 to E7 to D7 to A7. So I have the line that went. So that's much cooler than just going. Maybe you guys aren't doing that, something that simple, but when you start hearing those lines and seeing how they work, I could do that for hours trying to come up with something cooler and much more interesting than block chords. And many of them, like I said, are just based upon chord fingerings that you already know. You just might not have spent time looking at trying to see the inner working of the chord a bit more. This was, I use every cliche, this is a game changer for me. But if it really was. It was like I had been playing for years. I started getting into it. I heard people talk about voice leading and melody notes and all these things. But coming from a rock world and blues, I didn't really hear it that much. I didn't understand exactly what was going on because I wasn't paying attention, because plenty of songs do it. But when I just started hearing sort of like next level blues guitar players, say like Robin and, this became really obvious to me what's going on. And jazz guitar players do this all the time. You don't hear as much in rock because you're often playing, power chords, or it's more riff based. You don't necessarily see those notes, that kind of thinking, because stylistically it may not be the case. But if you're playing blues rhythm guitar, this is a big, big, big part of it. And it's not that hard. Find a common note between all the chords. Try that. Look at the chord shape, see what motions are going on inside those chords. Your your melody note does not have to be the high note. It can be on your second string. I would often try to times, if you're playing rhythm guitar behind somebody singing, I wouldn't make the melody note the high note anyway, because it might get in the way. But if I'm playing blues, once again, I'm always going to think about that stuff. So I'm just always trying to think about something, creating another level going on underneath what the soloist is playing. And you got to be careful. You don't want to make it too busy, because if it does, they're going to kind of give you the stink eye. Like, what are you doing, man? Give me some room. So this is really important stuff. So any questions on this? So it's funny when I don't do live feeds for a while, I see like there's not as many people. I got to start doing this more consistently again. It's always hard. YouTube. All right, so let's say everybody. Victor Beebe, what's going on, man? Michael Cope, Bill Jones, of course. Quincy was first. Jason Carter, David Cromwell. The boot camp is great. Worked through it earlier this year. We'll need to revisit it. Thanks, man. Yeah, the boot camp. I'm really psyched that it's coming out as a course for everybody to use and to do it at your own pace. And we've also what I've also added in is the live Zoom call from the first one, so you guys can get there was a Zoom call at the third weekend, and there was a Zoom call at the sixth week, so you can get those are added in as well, so you can get to hear a lot of questions that people asked and a lot of common questions that people had. So that's included as well. Yeah, Jazzers. This is BB. Jazzers uses all the time to play jazz standards among other compositions. Yeah, for sure. The voice leading and melody is huge in the jazz world. It's not always taught that much in the blues world, especially when you're starting to get into it at first. And the real, like I said, eye-opener was I can just play the chord shape that I already know. And you can make little melody lines. So there, I went into a different position. So here's my A7 to D7, right to that A7, the E7. Yeah, sorry. So I get all these. I can get a cool A on top of all those. The same one here, but. Right? So I've got this and the A on top. All right, so as I'm going through those chord voicings, I'm starting to see, well, that could move that way, and that one moves that way. And you get to see this great contrapuntal motion. Maybe one note goes up and the other one goes down. Really good stuff. A question. I hear players do stuff like that, and I would like to learn, but don't have a clue to get from A, where I am, to there. Well, think about it, Gary. If you watch from the beginning, I'm happy to talk about it again. Let's just take some three simple voicings, right? A7, D7, and let's take this E7. Let's say we want to keep, let's try this E common to all the chords. Well, I could play D7, but I can't keep that E. I could play this. But I could play it in a D9 chord. And there's that same chord tone. There's that E on top. And I go to my E7 chord, D9, A7 with that E. So I'm trying to keep that E the same on all the chords. So obviously if I play this for my D7, it would work, but a D9 is a cooler sound. Now I'm not even talking about this cool motion that starts to happen, the tritones and everything. That's something else to talk about, that I talk about in the boot camp as well. But here I'm just taking a chord shape, and you can make it super simple. Let's take A7, right, to D7. So E7, D7, A7. So I'm just moving that note. My A7 chord right down here D7. But I'm only going up to the second string to keep that second string my melody note. Now E7, D7, A7, E7. So you can make it super, super simple. And I recommend you make it super simple because it's always going to sound good and it gets you into the idea of looking at the inner working of the chord. Now, what I would also start to think about is what note am I playing? Okay, well, oh, that's my third of my A chord. That's my flat 7 of my D7 chord. Start to think about that stuff. I don't think about that when I'm playing. I've thought about that on, through practicing. So the first thing is to see the chord shape and just start playing music with it. And then you can come back and start to give it names, which I recommend you do because that's part of knowing the instrument. But the main thing was I just look for a shape and I just see how I can connect the two. That's the simplest way to do it. And like I said, you can do it with simple chord voicing that you already know. We can make it super deep too, like A13 to D7. That's super deep, so it sounds great. I'm gonna keep this F sharp on top. Well, if I want to keep this F sharp and play E7, E9. Right? I can do all these sorts of things like that. Let's keep the C sharp and move that. It's just my tritones moving, but I have this little motion that I can really kind of play up as opposed to thinking about the full shapes. If you're playing those those full shapes, if you're playing A7 to D9 to E9 or E7 this way, you're already doing it. You're just not isolating the notes. You're just playing them more blocky, but you're not taking the time. Maybe you don't. You know what I'm trying to say. You're already probably playing this stuff chord-wise, but you haven't taken the time to see, oh, there's a lot going on when I'm changing chords as opposed to just changing fingerings. And that was the thing, like, remember when you first learned a major to minor chord as a bar chord? You're like, oh, major, okay. Minor, so I just slipped up the second finger. But you never took the time to think, well, I'm actually flatting my third. By doing that, I'm moving that note down a half step. It's just a picture. A major, A minor. And for years, I didn't know that this is a major third. That's a minor third. I didn't know any of that stuff. But when I started to see that inner working and thought about it, it starts to come together really, really quickly. All right. So yeah, no questions? Is this good? And everybody's like, there's no questions. But all right. I'll drink some more water then. Let's just do a few more for fun. Yeah, A9, A13, all right? D9, A13, or A9, excuse me, A9 to D9, A9. I can go up to D9, E9, excuse me. That still sounds good to me. It doesn't always have to be the same note. I do like that sound. It sounds great. It doesn't have to be always super clever. Sometimes that just works great. But if I want to keep that E on top, like that. So I can start to see all these melody notes that I can start to add in too to embellish some of the chords too, because either they're going to be a scale tone, a chord tone, or a chord tone. Right? So there you go. All right, any questions on that? Not a lot of questions today. That's okay. My question was more generally, okay, trying to identify the fundamental skill I need to learn to get from A to B, not necessarily specific to the stream. Okay, yeah, well, try out the boot camp. I think it would help. How's that? But learning chord scales, understanding how chords function is really, guitar players get away with murder with that stuff because you can just look for fingerings. And it's easier that way, It takes a while to get the stuff together. All right, so a comment on the guitar. Yes! And BB put it up. Yeah, this is a private stock that I put together with my friends over at Watchtower Guitars. We got a number of them, a few more coming in. More coming in this color because it was pretty funny as we suspected. They got some different color options. And everybody who's seen this one, or mine, has wanted this color option. So they had a few of these come in. If you want to reach over to Watchtower Guitars, you can order one. They are not inexpensive, I understand that, but they're cool. All right, so any more questions on the chords? All right, talk a little bit of what I'm playing through. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out that was pretty funny. What was the question? Is that headstock shape slightly different from standard PRS? No, actually it's not. It's just because it's got the eagle on it. All right, so if we take another one. No, is it a little bigger? I don't think so. I can't tell. They look kind of the same. The binding kind of messes with your eyes on it too. It's not noticeably bigger. It's not like, oh, they made a much bigger headstock on that. But I think one thing that we ended up doing over with Watchtower was we put the binding on it because we thought that would look kind of classic, a little more Gibson-y, if you want to say, Time, perseverance, and practice. So somebody, if possible, find someone who understands and practice with them. Yeah, a practice buddy really helps. We used to have that in college all the time. We would, be kind of competitive with each other and work on the same stuff and work through things together. That was important too. And also, if you spend some time on this, I found when I was just playing guitar and everything else, it would start to kind of come together in other tunes. Like I wouldn't be playing full chords anymore. Even I'm playing the full chord fingering maybe, but I wouldn't be playing the whole thing. I would just be thinking about, where I want to stop that note. And I'd think about, well, all these cool notes that I can throw in between the chords because I know where I want to get to, which is going to be the root, the 3, or the flat 7. And what started to happen was by seeing the smaller common notes and common tones or voice-led things, I started to see bigger motion and my ears started to hear it. And that's a big thing when your ears start to open up to it. That's really big. When you're doing this, you're like, oh, I never really heard that. So you start to hear right? So those things start to come together. And some of those ways that I hope I can kind of dance through these chords makes me a much more interesting guitar player, but it makes me much more interested in playing guitar too. I find it a challenge. How can I come up with another cool thing to play on a blues, though it doesn't sound like I'm just banging out flat old chords? All right. All right, cool. So today I'm actually playing through my Friedman. You may have noticed it's a different color. It's a different color. I got a different head shell. The red, I thought it was cool, but I preferred the black. And Friedman sent me over the black with the white. That looks pretty hip to me. Looks a little bit more old blues breakery. So it kind of blends in better than the red. I don't know if you guys like the red better, but I don't have any red cabinets or anything either. So the red was really like red. And behind me in videos, I didn't love the look of the red. Even though it's cool and rock and roll and all that, I think I like the black better. Death Magneto, as a longtime player who went back to the blues, I can recommend just playing the changes and soloing the changes courses. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And also a course that I have available, if you really want to dig into it too, is my playing the changes in position over here at the channel. Blues in position. That's a good course too to kind of help you start to navigate some of this stuff. I just do it in the key of G right here. You start to see how these chords and the soloing, how everything moves together. That's one thing that I found to be helpful. Okay, so one thing that I thought was kind of funny, as I want to point this out. So people have, the gear questions, and I thought I'm going to play three different guitars. Four different guitars with the same pickups. And people always say, wood doesn't matter, or the guitar doesn't matter. And there was that guy who did that really detailed video on YouTube where he used the same pickup and everything, and the guitar sounded exactly the same. Now people are going to say, well, sometimes it's the pickup height's going to make all the big difference. But I have my pickup set kind of the same height. Now these are all Ron Ellis pickups, the same exact set. So I thought this would be kind of fun. As I was playing this today, I was going back to some guitars. I'm like, wow, this all sounds so different. All right, so obviously the heights are going to be a little bit different in the pickups, but check it out. So here's this guitar. Neck. Playing blues licks. Out of tune ones. So check this out. So same exact pickups. Obviously a bridge is different and everything, but same pots too. It's all open. Okay, so same pickups. Different guitar, now semi-hollow. Keep going. Same pickups. And out of tune. Weather change. Right? So I think it's pretty fascinating. And people, now, yeah, the argument that I've heard from people a lot of times is that the pickup doesn't, or the guitar doesn't make a difference. It's all about the pickup. Yes, these are all different construction, but I've heard the argument that it's just about the pickup. It's not about the wood doesn't make any difference. So I have, okay, a semi-hollow version of the guitar. So I don't have exact same versions of the same guitar. Of the DGT and a solid body, but same pickups, and they sound different. This sounds like a Les Paul. This, though, you know, constructed similarly, same pickups. So, you know, people can, you know, look, this is totally unscientific, but what I still found was there's a big difference in the sound of all of them. That's what I find to be most fascinating, is that, you know, that people say the wood's got nothing to do with it. And it's a bunch of hooey. So maple top, you know, mahogany body and neck, Brazilian fingerboard. My Les Paul is a maple top, mahogany, Brazilian fingerboard, same pickups. The DGTs, the ones I played, the two, same pickups, semi-hollow. So what I'm getting at is, like, you know, I just find it funny when people say pickups, or the pickups are the only thing that matter. The wood of the guitar doesn't make any difference. And I've had people get, you know, like, oh, that's totally ridiculous. You know, it's only about the pickup, and, you know, people have proven that. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Here, listen to yourself. It's just it's the same guitars. You want me to do another step further? Hold on. Let's this will be fun. Hold on. All right. So it's different bridge figure. Actually, these two are the same. Oh my. Right? Get the same pickups. Hold on. Hold on. Same pickups in the neck and the middle, because I like them. Right? So, yes, pickup height makes a difference, all those things. But there are qualities that are so different between all these guitars. And they may, sometimes, often cases, have the same pickups, which I like, too, because I do like Ron's pickups. These are DiMarzios, and so they're silent ones of this end, and the Black Landau. They all have a different quality that I like, even with the same pickup, which I find fascinating. I just like the way Ron's pickups react. And he's like, well, we could try this, we could try that. I'm like, I don't know. They all sound kind of different in different guitars, and they bring out certain characters and features that I like about the guitars. So, completely unscientific. I hadn't even planned on doing this, but I just thought about it while I was thinking about what guitar to play when he first started. I'm like, oh, these all sound really different. And I have the pickup heights generally in the same vicinity. I don't measure them. I just kind of do it by ear and by eye, and I just match out the volume. For Strats, well, not these pickups, by the way. The virtual vintage, or the areas, you can put really, really close to the strings. They don't get that weird Fender, blah, 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 like that wobble that the note can get from a regular single coil. So the heights on these are much higher than I would probably have an actual Strat pickup. On my 64, the pickups are much lower because it just kind of sounds better. There's kind of a magic area. Now, in Les Pauls, or humbuckers, they're all roughly the same, and Ron's pickups are never high output, so they're all kind of medium output ones, you know. Okay, so Nice tone off of that Strat. The black one or this one? They're all my guitars sound good. I chose them. I remember like whenever I sell one, someone's like, man, this is a great guitar. I'm like, yeah. I chose it. I got good experience choosing guitars, so I know good ones. And it just kind of comes out to what I'm playing and what I'm not playing, and what's been sitting around doesn't get touched. In my experience, the more gain you use, the less sound of the guitar matters. Well, sure, if you're using a ton of gain, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, you don't want maybe like a super resonant guitar. Sometimes you want something that's a more neutral sounding with a lot of gain, I find. Everything influences sound. Just replaced Vega Trem because they totally thinned out the sound and reduced the sustain. I use the same kind of pickups in different guitars and they all sound totally different. Exactly. I just find I've had people say like, that the wood doesn't matter, tone wood or whatever, that it can be kind of snooty sounding, tone wood, but the wood matters. The guitars all sound different. It's not just the pickups, because when you have two guitars that are exactly the same and you change the pickup, they sound different. That's just kind of the way it goes, So that works. I kind of like that though. That's kind of thing to like my wife. Do you need all those guitars? What? Of course they all sound different, and of course to her they sound nothing different. Nothing. They all sound the same to me. So what does it come down to for me? Like I said, I fortunate enough to be friends with stores and stuff. I get to try guitars, and I buy, sell, and trade, and I just keep on looking for ones that I like. And there's pieces that I'll never leave, like that, my Les Paul, just a great Les Paul, and I'm not sure how much more I can top it without, getting into things that I can't afford. The Tuttle for me is the number one. I play it way more than my vintage stuff. So I've come down to the guitars I primarily play in are this Tuttle or one of the DGTs. Because I just find that they're just floating my boat now. But the Tuttle is great because it's, it's my signature guitar. That makes it the best part. But it's just, every time I pick it up, I'm still overjoyed with the guitar, how good it sounds and how great it plays. So basswood is horrible for guitar bodies. I have rarely tried a basswood guitar that I really like. They're pretty popular at times, right? But I've never tried ones that I really love. Things I know I don't love is stainless steel frets. I love the way they feel. I love the way they last on a guitar. I don't love the way they affect the tone of a guitar. And I'm not the only person who feels this way. And I've had guitars with stainless steel frets, and every time I played them, I was like, oh, there's something about this guitar that doesn't make me want to keep on playing it. And then those guitars, sonically, and those are the guitars are the ones that usually end up going away. And Michael Tuttle and I have talked about, he does such amazing fretwork, and he does lots of stainless steel frets. And he's just like, yeah, you're just not a stainless steel fret guy. I find if you're playing with more gain, it doesn't matter as much. But when you're playing a little more bluesy or rootsy tones, I find that can be the stainless steel I don't love. I love the way they feel. They feel great. And I love that they never really wear down. That's the best. But I've tried, and they just don't end up working for me. I wish they did. Because like I said, there's so many things to like about them. There's so many things that change the sound of your guitars too. Like, your strings can sound different. The pick you use, how you pick, where you pick, the angle of which you pick. Oh, a million things. Picks versus fingers, Bill Schulkitis, what's up, man? Hey, buddy, is your name on the headstock? On the production model, yeah, it's on the back of the headstock. This was the prototype, and I never got a decal for the back. But the ones you get from Michael have my name on the back. Yeah, my signature. I'll get one here. So we're going to get something else. We're going to probably do, at some point, a maple version, which I'd like to have a maple neck Strat. And so hopefully that'll have my name on it, But unfortunately, it does not have my name on me. This one does not have my name on it. So, yeah, any questions, guys? Besides, is my name on the headstock? So, just back to the top. The main thing. My Blues Boot Camp is now a course that you can pick up, and it's packed full of info. Some of you guys have already taken it, but a bit of the flagship course, I would say. Like somebody says to me, what should I work on? I just want to get my blues playing better. I think I would recommend this course wholeheartedly because it's a course, but it's a plan. It's a strategy. They're guided lessons. There's a whole plan behind it. You know what I mean? Like it's not just a bunch of series of lessons and different unrelated topics. 1 week builds upon the prior week. And 3 ways to break it down, and you can take it at your own pace. And one thing I talk about in the course a lot, and I talk about here all the time, is fundamentals. So I find when I'm having a problem doing something, it's almost always my fundamentals, right? Fundamentals could be vibrato or playing in tune, right? You getting your bends right, your vibrato, or triads, or those kind of things. All the fancier stuff it's like the fancier stuff is just taking the idea of like putting maybe 2 triads together. So if you know your triads really well, you know your chord voicings, you know how to play a bunch of tunes solidly. Those are things I always still run over, and it may sound like disingenuous, like where I am with the guitar, blah, blah, blah. You know, when I come home, I didn't bring a guitar on my vacation on purpose because I didn't want, we were traveling around a bit. We went to a few cities, and I thought about bringing, Keith sent me his Strandberg to bring. I just thought, you know, why don't I just take a break from playing guitar entirely and then not even think about it? Because sometimes you get to the hotel room and you're beat. I'm going to play guitar for 10 minutes. I'm lugging this thing on trains, and it's just not worth it. So it was nice to take the time off. Definitely coming back though, you're like, oh boy, 2 weeks of not playing guitar. You can definitely feel that for sure. I forget my point here. Oh, so the fundamentals. So when I get back, what do I go back to doing? Some of the basic fundamental stuff, going through my triads, working through them so it gets my fingers together, but just gets everything in practice. So either it's playing a blues, right? We talked about that. So there, I kind of thought of some voice leading in that. Right? So I'm going to hear some of those lines go up and down. So that stuff I work on all the time because it keeps my brain working and trying to find different ways to do something. And it comes down to what I started talking about and what this video is about today is looking at a chord voicing, see what notes you can keep between the two, what notes you can move it up by a little bit. And it will change the way you view the guitar. And it makes you a much cooler musician, much cooler. And like I said, keyboard players are like, you know, yeah, of course. What's wrong with you guys? Hear that all the time from keyboard players. Like, you guys are idiots. When it's true. I always wear black shoes when I play guitar. It helps me with the low end. I agree with you wholeheartedly. What are your thoughts about weight relief on Les Paul bodies? Oh, I don't care. If the guitar sounds good, I'm all for it. I don't want to play a heavy Les Paul. Hell with that. Like 8 pounds, 6 ounces is my absolute max for like a Les Paul. I want a Black Beauty, like a custom, so bad because I just love the way they look. Love them. They're all like 9, 10 pounds. Like, forget it. I'll never play it. They're not comfortable sitting down when they're that heavy. I can't play them. I don't want to play them standing up. I'm so lazy when it comes to that stuff. Like if I'm playing 2 sets, I don't want a big heavy Les Paul. If I want to bring a guitar on the road with me in a gig bag, or I want to go in the subway, I'm not going to bring a heavy Les Paul in a gig bag or in a case when I have a guitar that weighs, 8 pounds, or something like that. So the weight relief on a Les Paul, I'm all for it. It may not sound, it may sound great. It may not sound like a certain style of Les Paul. I'm not saying, I've played some really heavy Les Pauls that sound amazing. So I'm not saying, and I've played some really light guitars that don't sound very good either. Sometimes if a Les Paul is too light, ceases to sound less Paulish, I think. But it could sound like a different kind of Les Paul. So if you hear like the Peter Green Les Paul, and I've had the opportunity to play lots and lots of vintage Les Pauls for stories I've told before, they all kind of sound different. And some of them, just the lighter ones, can sometimes sound better. Sometimes they don't. So it's the guitar. So if you find a Les Paul that's weight relieved that sounds good to you, then great. Ultimately, a little more cliche, at the end of the day, ultimately, I got to want to play the thing live, especially. And a heavy guitar is not going to fill check that box for me. I've tried. I had an old gold top. Not an old gold top. I had a gold top that I had sold a while ago. I've gone through a bunch of Les Pauls trying to find the right one. And it was cool. And then I was fortunate to get this other Les Paul, which is significantly lighter. And that was, I never touched that gold top again because what was the point? That's an earlier question. We need a bird's eye view of where all these guitars are coming from. Oh, that's easy. All the PRSs are through Watchtower Guitars. My friends over at Watchtower. And I'm friends with, I'm a PRS endorser. But mainly, I end up, frankly, buying them. The reason why is I've been fortunate enough that PRS has given me some guitars, which is super cool, a while ago, to kind of like to get you in. And then I can get them at artist cost now, which is cool. But I'm a big believer in the quality of their instruments. But when I go to Watchtower, and they usually have a lot of them, I can try them out. And I can try 4 DGTs and just pick the one that speaks the most to me. And that's why I love stores like those guys, because you could call them up and say, hey, Jeff sent me, can you pick me out one of your favorite DGTs or something? And they will. And so the ones I have are ones that I got a chance to play in the store and decided to get them. And, I would sell other guitars to do it. It may seem weird, like I don't feel like I'm not into collecting guitars. I've got a lot of them, but I do because it's my job and it's fun and it's just how these things work out. But I look at everything except for maybe a handful of guitars as that's just here for a little while until something else can come in that you might like. So I've gotten some of my favorite guitars by selling and trading. You have a guitar for a while and you're like, oh, this other one came in. I like that a little better. So I'll just trade it into the store. And that works out great, or I sell it. And now's not a great time to sell guitars, but that's how I got a number of these guitars. This Michael I've been working with, for like 20 years, playing his guitars on and off. I said on and off. I just kind of got the vintage Strat, which we talked about. I sold all my guitars to get a vintage Strat. And that's when I sold the Les Paul I had. Oh, where are they sitting? Oh, you mean where are they sitting now? Oh, there's a... I gotcha. This camera, I can't tilt it. There's just racks right here. There's a rack with a bunch of guitars. There's two racks. And they're right there. If my guitar is not out, I don't play it. Have you guys figured that out, right? If a guitar is not out, I just don't play it. I forget I own it. So the only guitar that stays in a case is probably the old Les Paul, just because that, there's a financial investment in that guitar that if that broke, that would be a sin because it was in a stand. I don't really, this guitar is in a stand like this. I very rarely keep my guitars in stands like that. If I'm just practicing and it's right behind me, I usually have them all in the racks because they're much more solid. Also things like I very rarely do. I try not to leave my guitar plugged in when it's in like a stand. So especially a non-Fender style guitar, I very rarely put in a stand like this. It's just there because I'm online with you guys right now, or if I'm shooting a video, I might put it there because it looks cool on camera. But they're usually on one of those, cases over here. Not cases, but the stands, on multiple guitar stands. Just so they don't get knocked over. I do have to be careful sometimes with the tremolo. I've done like put the guitar in the rack, and the tremolo stabs the Gibson and marks it up. Like that's happened a few times. You got to be careful with some of that stuff. But so there's a rack of guitars right over here. But if they're not out, I don't play it. That's kind of funny. Yeah, but I can't angle this camera too much because it's kind of fixed on a tripod in front of me. All right, this is all very exciting. Oh yeah, well, so I am playing through the Friedman right now, which I really love. Gain channel, or heavier gain. The Klon. The Booty G. And all the effects you're hearing is actually in a loop. That is the UA Golden is the reverb on right now. And UA just released something that can do MIDI now. So you can change channel, you can change patches and presets if you're playing MIDI on the UA pedals, which is freaking huge because I love them. So yes, Bill, there are 2 channels. So here's the Plexi channel. It's set pretty rocky, and then I can stick the Klon on top of that. And maybe live I'll dial that in, depends on how loud it's gonna get. That's a really distinctive Klon sound, that mid-range hump. And if I have the Booty G, so let's once again, which I really love. I like that one because it's a little more neutral, which I love about that pedal. That's kind of the sleeper Vemaram pedal in my mind. There's the Shanks that you guys know I love, but the Booty G for boosting an amp. And I also love it if I clean up the amp. Right, so here's just kind of a clean amp. So I'm using the Booty G as the overdrive. Check it out. So it's a great pedal, and as a boost thing, And then I got the overdrive channel. So it's like the 800 channel, the modded 800. So 2 independent volumes, which is cool. I got to pull for more gain if I want. I can boost that. Yeah. And I did a video on this, and I have my delay on an expression pedal. Let me dial it back. I'll bring it in. Tap tempo on the El Capistan. And I can change the reverb with a preset. So, they set kind of the same right now. I was just messing around with that. Yeah, so that's what I'm playing through right now. Obviously, the volumes are not dialed in, but really happy with the amp. Also, I can do the same with the T-Rock Bloomfield drive with the effects loop. So I'm using the 4-cable method. Anyway, but the Jakey Lee, I really like the amp, and I've talked about this. The reason why I think I really like this amp a lot, is I like Friedman's amps, but I found some of them to be a little more smooth, a little more like modern, high gain-ish, which I think just isn't my thing, So this is just like a raunchy Marshall. It's got elbows and some of that real percussive sound, especially when you crank it, like you're hearing it to an aux. But I used it on a gig, and I've used it. It's just the kind of Marshall style amp I've been looking for years with the effects loop. Really great master volume, much more usable on a daily basis than say a super lead or something like that, you know. All right. So yeah, man, thanks everybody for hanging out. If you have any more questions, happy to answer. But the Blues Boot Camp, if you get a chance, if you don't have it, I think that's one of those courses that I can tell everybody, yeah, it's good for everybody, pretty much at any level. Even if you feel like I've been playing for a while, that's the feedback I've gotten from everyone, which makes me really happy. They're like, oh, I thought I knew this stuff, but I didn't. And I think a lot of these things come down to, yeah, I know how to do that. And then you start doing it and you realize you don't really know how to do that, which is always the case, you know, like for everybody. So there's levels of understanding. So the boot camp walks you through all of it. And I really like this method that I came up with. I don't mean like, I came up, a method that worked for me, for a lot of my students, and it works for me. If I work on 3 things. So it gives me a plan on what to work on. I can work on vocabulary, learning other people's solos, licks, phrases, building on phrases, trying these phrases in different genres or feels, vocabulary, fingerboard knowledge, and applied technique. Let me learn something new on the guitar. Let me work on my scales. Let me work on connecting my pentatonic scales in ways I haven't. Let me work on major scales, all these things like that. Super important. And then is repertoire, just learning lots of tunes. And I still do that. I go back and learn, you know, I just when I'm bored, you know, sometimes I don't want to do any of that stuff. I'll go back and learn like a Zeppelin tune. And I always realize I've learned it wrong. When I start to dig it, I'm like, oh, I had no idea that's how he played that. So that's always a ton of fun, or just something new. So the repertoire, but not just learning. I try to learn the whole song if possible too. That's one thing that people don't do all the time. It's like you just learn a little bit of a song. So like a blues tune, as I talk about in the chorus, if you're thinking about, there's a lot of similarities like to like, you know, Checking on My Baby, like that kind of like. Right? And then there's like what's that tune? I've got the name of it. Help Me, which is going to be a different key, but it's like. Right? So being able to do that, knowing what the tune is. Somebody says, can you play Waiting on the Bus, says Bill just popping. Yeah, I know that. Because what makes Going Down, you know, the Freddie King tune, Going Down, that lick, it's a 12-bar blues, no big deal there in a way, right? But knowing the tune, and you learn one blues tune, you learn like 20 of them. So like if you get this sort of like that groove, like, how about, right? Being able to play that, but being able to play that out of that, right? So if the band's playing and you're grooving with the drummer, and you're just sitting there nailing that through the whole song for 5 minutes, like all the greats could do, go. All the rhythm guitar player that doesn't get the fame, right? And have a conversation. Doesn't seem that hard until you start doing it, right? Dynamics. And then the learning to be able do that and know your place in the band. Right? You know, maybe throwing a little fill or something like that. When I started to be able to do that, that's when I started getting gigs. It's because I knew the tunes. So that's one thing that's really, really important about that blues boot camp and music in general. Learning songs. And it's not for the point of like, oh, I'm planning on playing, Starless by King Crimson on a gig, just 15 minutes thing. I'm talking about, if you're playing blues, you need to know the blues catalog. If you play jazz, you need to know the blues and jazz standards. If you are playing rock within a certain genre, if playing classic rock, you need to know the standards. You need to know the tunes. So that's one thing that's really, really big. So, book lockdown number 1, Catfish Blues. I talk about it in the Blues Boot Camp. Being able to just do that, keeping it together. It's all in the boot camp. So there you go. Some of you guys have already done it before, but if you're interested, 75% off. Also, there's some spots open in the Inner Circle. I've got 4 spots open right now. Inner Circle is, we meet twice a month on Zoom calls, open counseling, get lessons in there as well. We have a community board. I do lessons, explain them in detail. We run over this stuff. You get all the courses. And you get a seat ahead of time in every masterclass that I do. So it's everything. You get everything plus some live Zoom hangs. I've got to do one tonight. So there's that link there for the Inner Circle as well. All right, everyone. I appreciate you being here. BB, thanks for doing this last minute. Always appreciate it. I'm going to try to pick this up weekly again. I think that would be cooler. Kind of get back to it. I enjoy doing it. And let me know what you think. So as always, I appreciate you being here. And I got to go walk Bo. So I'll see you guys all later. Thanks again.